Montreal has been a difficult opponent for y'all this season. What went wrong in those first two games, and what can y'all do better this time?
Well, I think if you look from the first game to the second game, obviously a lot's changed to where we are now from that first game. And you look back at the second game, and from an application standpoint, we were one of our worst performances, and so that part wasn't acceptable. So I don't even think you can really analyze the soccer side of it, because the application was so poor, and so ultimately affecting the performance. That being said, going into tomorrow, it's do or die. Everything's on the line, right? And so we can't have a repeat performance and a repeat of application. One, because that's well below our standard, but two, if we do, then we'll be out.
What's the mood? I mean, does it feel like y'all are playing with house money at this point, or what is it like out there?
No, the mood's good. Again, of course, you're excited after Saturday, right? There's a lot of things that we needed to go our way for us to find ourselves in this position, and fortunately they did, right? And we had to handle our business, but we needed help from other scenarios, other teams. It went our way, and here we are.
Did y'all work on penalties any more than usual today, considering the circumstance?
I think when you look at that, you look at obviously where our guys physically from Saturday. Mm-hmm. That's a big part of moving on to the next day. You need guys to be prepared and ready to play as long as they can. And so something certainly we have, and we will look at more from now until then.
Brett, during the season you mentioned, probably like when things were going great, that this team lacked like killer instinct, that edge to them. What did you guys find out, or what did you find out about this team on Saturday, and how does that bode going into this do or die match?
I think the word I was using with a couple guys afterwards was resilient. You talk about killer instinct. For me, it was more resiliency in terms of how we defended against a good Orlando team, right? How we defended, especially in the second half, such a low block in our box, all 11 of us. I think at one point Jamal was probably 5 yards outside the box. But that's what it took in that moment, right? And that's not how we want to be playing. But you have to be able to adapt, and you've got to be able to change, and you've got to find a way. And I think all things considered, that was a glimpse of the resiliency that we have within the group.
What has that process been like for you? What has made this season unique for you, in particular, having seen the ups and downs of this club and this team as well, like new faces? We've talked about it, young players, and now you're at this point.
Yeah, I think when you look at the group, I'm sure you can pull up an article or two from the beginning in preseason, and the excitement and the quality that we've spoken about that's in the group. But too many times this year, the application in big moments and big games, it's not been there, and you need that, right? And whether it's on the defensive side of the ball or a lot of times it's been on the attacking side in terms of not taking our chances. And I've always said goals change games. We all know that. And so when you get these opportunities, you've got to take them. You look at the Montreal game at home. It's not like they created a ton of chances, but they took their chances, right? And that was ultimately the difference. And so, we know we need to continue to do that. I thought how we started the game in Orlando was really good. Obviously, towards the end of the first half, we wavered a little bit, but then to come back in the second half and hold strong, it was a good reaction.
You're the last guy left from 2018, the MLS Cup. Tata kind of made a defense-first focus toward the end of that season, anticipating the playoffs. I was curious if you've talked with the guys just about that experience and what that took before this game.
Yeah, I've always said, right, when you get into the playoffs, it's a whole new season. Everyone starts level. Everyone starts at the same starting point. and it's all to play for. And within a few games, you can find yourself in a final. And so, from a defensive side, the less you concede, the stronger you are defensively, the more opportunity you give yourself to go and win the game. Because at some point, we're going to get a chance or two, or hopefully 15, or hopefully 20. And hopefully we can take all of those chances. And that's the difference between winning and losing.
Brad, first thing came out to your mind after you heard the whistle in Orlando?
To be honest, I didn't know if we had advanced or not, because I saw Rob's comments talking about not wanting to know, and us as players, or at least I didn't know what was happening in the other results. And so I didn't know. I saw some hugs and whatnot, but I wasn't sure if they were like, hell yeah, we're going through hugs, or hugs like we won, we did everything we could, but we just didn't have the break that we needed. But after 5-10 seconds, it was clear to see the excitement on everyone's faces.
How do you turn the page emotionally from that? Except for that wasn't how hard it was and everything shaking your way, but also know that you have to do it as well.
Yeah, I think it's important that, you turn the page, but at the same time, you ride that confidence, right? You ride that momentum, and we want to carry that momentum into tomorrow night. I think that's a huge part of it. And so as much as we want to say, right, it is a fresh start, we also want to take that momentum from Saturday night and being on the road in a tough environment against a good team and saying, right, we were able to come out with a big win, and now we've got to do that again. And so to remember that feeling of what it took, the exhaustion after 90 plus minutes, and take that into tomorrow night.
Kind of bouncing off that question, I think I read 10% chance to make the playoffs going into that game. You guys win the game. What were the emotions like, just knowing all those possibilities had to go your way in order to get to this point? Yeah, of course. Excitement, as you can imagine, right? It was exciting. There was obviously some celebration and whatnot. It's not always been rosy for us throughout the year, and to then find ourselves into the playoffs, where again it's a whole new mini season, and we've got just as much of a chance as anyone else. And so that part, it certainly felt good afterwards, and like I said, now we've got to take that feeling and apply it to Tuesday.
Y'all got to play with a lead against Orlando, which is something you haven't gotten a lot of this year. Can you talk about the differences in playing defense when you actually have a lead compared to when either the game is tied or you're chasing?
I think the natural reaction is okay, you want to protect that, and how do you protect it? And as I mentioned earlier, I don't think it was probably how we would have envisioned the second half panning out, in terms of sitting in our own 18-yard box and defending cross after cross and little 1-2s in and around the box. We certainly don't want to be like that, but if that's what the game's going to call in certain moments, then we've got to be able to do that. And so, the most important thing is to find a way, and we were able to do that.
4 straight results on the road going back to the win in Charlotte. Beyond the resilience, is there another common thread for you in those results?
Yeah, probably going to keep that close to my chest, but it's there's certainly you talk about wanting to play the same home and away and vice versa, right? But at the same time, the reality is that it's probably not, right? And there's a few teams that probably do in terms of playing the same away from home and at home. But for us, the attitude within the group going on the road has been really good, and you need that when you go into a hostile environment. And tomorrow night's going to be one of those environments, right? I've spoken to a few different people from outside of these walls, and a little bit what to expect in terms of a playoff atmosphere up there, and everyone says it's intense. It's a good atmosphere. They do a good job of creating, having that home field advantage, but creating a good atmosphere, and so it should be exciting for all of us.
Right, last one. Joseph Martinez. He's been scoring goals, and he scored last time he played against you guys. You talked to the defense about how you're going to be able to handle it, and
yeah, watch him. Keep an eye on him.
is it now that the regular season's behind you, is it freeing in a sense when you talk about it just kind of being level? You have one game to go on. You don't have to kind of think about the table and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say freeing, right? I would say it's exciting. I would say exciting in terms of this is where you want to find yourself, right? Now, of course, would we have liked to have been able to host this game? Would we have liked to have been able to be in the top half of the table and find ourselves, not having to play this game? Of course, but you know what? It is what it is, and we can't change that now. And so, from our standpoint, it's exciting. And listen, we've had our backs against the wall for probably the last few weeks, and so every game has felt a bit of a playoff game in terms of having to perform, having to get a result. So we just got to go and do it again.
Brad, we saw Rob's post-match speech about no one believing you guys. Like, is that still the message going into tomorrow night, or is it evolved because you've basically gotten in when people didn't think you would?
I'm not sure if it evolved. I'm sure if you did some digging this morning, you'd be able to find one or two things where it's the outside viewpoint certainly hasn't evolved. And so from our standpoint, we're going into a hostile environment in Montreal where, aside from the people in that locker room, there's not going to be many, that will be there. I know that, from history and in the past, our supporters have turned up there, and I know that there certainly is going to be a few of them, and I know they'll let their voices be heard. But we're going up there with the idea that it's going to be a fight. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be hard, and all the things you expect in a playoff game. And that part, that part's exciting.
Do you do that? Do you dig and look for?
I don't dig. I don't dig and look, Doug. I do not dig and look. Somehow it finds something. No, I do not. I am not that important. But somehow it always finds my eyes, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
Good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Good luck tomorrow. Thanks.